Welcome to BA third semester DSC. Uh, I would like to talk on the Unit-2, that is major writers and works of 19th century English literature. So in the first part, I am going to introduce the major writers and their works, and then I talk about galaxy of romantic poets, Victorian poets, and modern writers. So, the literary landscape from romantic era to modernism reflects seismic shifts in society, philosophy, and artistic expression. Writers like Coleridge and Shelley championed revolutionary ideas, while Victorian idealists like Dickens and Eliot dissected industrial morality. Modernists like Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot later deconstructed form itself to mirror 20th century fragmentation. So, my talk traces these evolutions through key figures and texts, especially, and highlighting their enduring relevance. And in the as far as romantic visionaries is concerned, emotion and imagination are the predominant elements of romantic literature. So S.T. Coleridge fused the supernatural with psychological depth in the Rime of Ancient Mariner, his famous work. So it explores guilt and redemption through symbolic landscapes. His concept of the willing suspension of disbelief, which he uses in his famous critical work Biographia Literaria, and he redefined poetic engagement. So P.B. Shelley in Ode to the West Wind and Prometheus Unbound embodied radical idealism. Shelley's poetry is characterized by idealism. Coleridge's poetry is characterized by supernatural. Wordsworth's poetry is characterized by love for nature. So Lord Byron's poetry is characterized by revolutionary spirit. So, in Shelley's poetry, we find radical idealism. He uses myth to demand social revolution. So, his assertion that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world, and which underscored, literature's political power. Jane Austen subtly revolutionized fiction through irony and free indirect discourse. So in Pride and it could be in Pride and Prejudice, and then Emma. See, these two novels dissected Regency, England's marriage market, exposing how social constraints shaped women's lives. So, in the meantime, essays like Charles Lamb, who's famous, so he is known as, his essays are known as Essays of Elia, and William Hazlitt. These two are famous essays of the 19th century Romantic age. So, William Hazlitt's The Spirit of the Age and Essays of Elia pioneered intimate critical prose, Lamb with whimsical nostalgia, and Hazlitt with incisive radicalism. So, as far as Victorian conscience is concerned, we see we find the society and morality. The Victorian era grappled with faith, class, and industrial progress. So, Alfred Tennyson's famous elegy In Memoriam voiced generational doubt. For example, we come across the line nature red in tooth and claw. And while idylls of his famous poetical work, idylls of the king idealized Arthurian chivalry as antidote to modern decay. Matthew Arnold's Door Beach lamented receding faith, and culture and anarchy also prescribed sweetness and light to heal social fractures. So, social critics like John Ruskin and Thomas Carlyle attacked materialism. Ruskin's famous work Unto This Lost condemned laissez-faire economics, and then see, it insisted wealth. It insisted that wealth must serve human welfare. Carlyle's famous work, Sartor Resartus, satirized societal masks and championed the gospel of work. So, as far as Victorian novels are concerned, the Victorian novel became a mirror to society. For example, Charles Dickens' Hard Times, which savaged utilitarianism through Grad Grint's mantra, facts alone are wanted in life. Then George Eliot's, who wrote under Mary Ann Evans, who wrote under the pen name of George Eliot, whose famous novel Middlemarch. In that novel, she explored moral complexity in provincial life, declaring the growing good of the world relies on unhistoric acts. Another famous novelist, Thomas Hardy's novels. He wrote a number of novels like The Return of the Native, Tess of D. Willis, Far from the Madding Crowd. So, in The Return of the Native, the novel casts Egdon Heath as a pagan force crushing human ambition, embodying his tragic vision of what we call, crass casualty. So, in the Victorian age, we come across the Bronte sisters who reshaped fiction. For example, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre fused Gothic romance with feminist defiance, while Emily Bronte's novel Wuthering Heights, famous novel Wuthering Heights, unleashed primal passions against social confines. So, if we come to the modern age, we know that many revolutions took place, modernist revolutions. So, modern age is characterized by fragmentation and crisis. Modernism shattered traditional forms to capture 20th century disillusionment. T.S. Eliot's famous poem The Wasteland epitomized this fragmentation, weaving myth, fragmentation, and cultural debris. So, in the famous line, he says, I will show you fear in a handful of dust. So, that means to mourn post-World War, that post-World War's spiritual decay. So, his verse drama Murder in the Cathedral also focused religious martyrdom with poetical innovation. So, W. Yeats also, he married Irish nationalism to symbolic mysticism. So, in his famous work Easter 1916, he immortalized rebels while questioning fanaticism. We come across the famous line, all changed utterly, a terrible beauty is born. The famous line. Virginia Woolf revolutionized narrative with stream of consciousness in Mrs. Dalloway, her famous novel, rendering inner lives as luminous halos against linear time. D.H. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers which explores industrialization's psychic toll through Paul Morrell's Oedipus struggles. George Orwell weaponized allegory in animal form. We come across the famous line, all animals are equal, but some are more equal. where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. So that line exposed utilitarian hypocrisy. Then see we when if we look at modernist playwrights and innovators like G.B. Shaw and John Galsworthy, so their novels are social dramas. G.B. Shaw's Arms and the Man subverted war romance with anti-heroic patriotism. E.M. Foster's Passage to India dissected colonialism's failures, urging human connection. W.H. Auden's September 1939 captured pre-war anxiety. So in the poem we come across the line, we must love one another or die. So as far as enduring themes and texts of the 19th and 20th century are concerned, we know in the Victorian age industrial revolution took place, that industrial alienation. Dickens' Coke Town, which he mentions in Hard Times, and D.H. Lawrence D.H. Lawrence coal mining communities in Sons and Lovers reveal technologies dehumanizing March. So then we come across feminist evolution also. Jane Austen's Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. We know that Elizabeth Bennet, she navigated Bennett navigated marriage economics. Then Virginia Woolf's Clarissa Dalloway sought autonomy in post-war London. So we see another characteristic like spiritual crisis. Arnold's melancholy is expressed in most of his works. Melancholy, long, withdrawing roar of faith. This line we come across in his famous poem Door, which foreshadowed these things foreshadowed Eliot's heap of broken images that we come across in his famous long poem The Wasteland. So as far as social justice is concerned, so in the Victorian age we come across Ruskin. John Ruskin's economic ethics is reflected in his famous prose work Unto This Lost, that reasoned in that resonated in George Orwell's Animal Farm, both attacking systemic exploitation. That means what we call systematic exploitation, political economy, and all those things. So then, if we can, I would like to conclude, the major writers and their works by saying that literature as cultural barometer. I would like to say that from Coleridge's Haunted Mariners to George Orwell's totalitarian Bombard, these writers mapped humanity's struggle against shifting backdrops, romantic idealism, Victorian anxiety, and modernist fragmentation, like that. So their works remain vital not merely as historical artifacts, but as dialogues on power and art's capacity to provoke change. So, in as far as as far as the second unit is concerned, all these key aspects are very important. Please concentrate on R.D. Trivedi's book History of English Literature, and Mundra and Satish Kumar for more information about the various writers from Romantic age to modern age. Thank you, one and all.